Since it's the top of the hour, I will get started. Welcome to Take Back Your Time, simple tools to save you 5+ hours a week. This is one of my all-time favorite things to teach, truly because I have built a life around that. So why we are here, why I'm passionate about this, if you didn't already know, I have a child who was born with a heart defect. So he was born about 4 weeks premature and had his first heart surgery before he was even 3 weeks old. And now he is up to 6 heart surgeries. And this is not about the negative or the sadness in that, because 1 in 100 kids is born with a heart defect, but rather his needs, his medical needs, have really helped define my priorities in a very different lens. So often, women are balancing motherhood and a career. And I had to completely pivot to make sure that I was here for my kid and for whatever he needed medically first. And so that's why I've built a life by design where I now have the ability to flex and function to put all of his needs first and then still make the money that I need to make to support our family and play all in and build what I want to build for myself. So that's why I'm here. And as you guys know, I'm Jess Weber. So I am a systems and clarity coach. My big thing in life is removing friction and helping people find leverage for simple, scalable workflows. So I use my education background to help with intellectual property and organizing people's content. I orchestrate, the chaos inside of businesses as an integrator, but I also like to help people think big with my visionary side. So I'm kind of that unicorn jack of all trades, which can be either a detriment or an asset. And I've chosen to use my superpowers for good. So I know that y'all that are already on here are connected with me, and I'm so grateful you're here today. But don't ever hesitate to reach out if there's something that I can answer for you, if you want feedback on something. So email or social media, happy to have a chat anytime. Now, what you're here today for, what you'll walk away with, is the goal of a calendar that reflects your real life, not just your goals. It'll be an inbox system for your email that works with you, not against you. Oops. And a task system that aligns with your time and your brain. Because I know that there are millions of people out there that teach all of their concepts. I had a book stack of productivity books where everybody has their own opinion on this. And yet not a lot of people talk about 2 hours, Nicole. Not a lot of people talk about how to work with your brain and with yourself. And so what we'll do is we'll talk about how to make these tools work for you. And if at any point in time, like I said, you have questions, feel free to throw it in the chat and I'll try to answer. Or I am actually building this where we're going to cover these 3 things and then have probably about 30 minutes at the end for Q&A. So my goal is to get this kind of squeezed into the first 75 to 90 minutes and then do Q&A at the end. So really my goal by the end of this is that you will have a clear structure and a realistic plan to take back a minimum of 5 hours a week that you're probably spending in your calendar, your inbox, and your task list that doesn't need to be spent that way. So like I said, I'm obsessed with reading. I'm obsessed with this concept of productivity. And yet I know that so many fellow entrepreneurs truly struggle with this. This is a space that is popular, which is why there's so many books on it. And yet it seems to be this constant problem. And so that's where I really want to spend some time looking at how can you think about productivity in a way that works with your brain and your energy. So the first thing I need you to really think about here is, where did your time go this week? Or if you want to be reflective, look at your calendar or your time last week. So what has pulled you away from what actually matters to you? Was it a whole bunch of distractions or interruptions? Was it back-to-back appointments with no time to reflect or compartmentalize? Were you overwhelmed by your inbox or your text messages, your DMs, something like that? Or are you just completely drowning in to-dos, whether it's through sticky notes, whether it's through a digital to-do list. Is your to-do list a mile long? And the reason that I want you to think about this is because the goal is to eliminate as much of this as possible for you. So it's not really about being more productive, because you're not behind. You're the only person you can compare yourself to is yourself. And so you're not broken, you're not behind. You're running probably a pretty high demand business without having a system that supports you. So my whole premise is you don't actually need to hustle more. You don't need to work harder. You don't need to put on a superhero cape or your, spandex tights. It's really about creating a better foundation to work off of and work from. Okay. And so where most people truly struggle with this process is that they are constantly either double booked or overcommitted with no time to actually work in the business. So they may work on it and they may be feeling like they're drowning while working on it, but they haven't created space to work in it. Others, they don't use their calendar as a tool and they don't use time as a tool. They let their calendar use them, meaning that they only operate when they get those notifications, but they aren't intentional with their time. I also know that most people are completely and utterly overwhelmed by their inboxes. Those of you that are on this, are you part of the zero inbox club, or are you part of the, oh my God, I have 427,362 unread emails? Yeah. See, I'm more of the zero inbox proponent, but at the same time, we're going to talk about this and talk about leveraging it. Because, one of my business partners, when I first met him, had 43,000 unread emails and I could not handle it. I was like, I literally can't talk to you until I fix this. And because again, all of those notifications, those calendar ones, those inbox ones, and even your task list can be this overwhelming, overstimulating space. And so often people don't even have their calendar talking to their to-do list. So they have the list and then they're not paying attention to their time. And it just becomes this great big bundle of overwhelm. And so the reason that I want to help you is I currently operate 4 businesses in roughly 20 to 30 hours a week so that I can put my kid first and his health first and his needs first and still build this massive world that I am building for myself. I've doubled my income each year the last few years, and I'm continuing to do that without working harder. And so that's like my passion zone of helping people find their brilliance, simplify their life, and then build systems that work with them and not against them so they can scale to whatever they want to be. So one of the statistics that really kind of hit me between the eyes was at least 72% of entrepreneurs self-reported being directly or indirectly affected by some sort of mental condition or neurodivergence. I also like to call it neurospiciness because I like being spicy. But the idea is that most people are operating with a whole lot of speed in their brain or a different way of thinking. And when they try to read that stack of productivity books that I have, so frequently they'll be like, well, this system doesn't work with my brain. And so my goal for you today is to feel like what I'm teaching you is something you can walk away with today and implement, and not feel like you have to go read all those books only to be like, they don't actually work for me. So I do have ADHD, self-proclaimed first and then diagnosed in the last year just because I wanted it for myself. But here's the thing of why so many entrepreneurs and individuals feel chaotic. First and foremost, dopamine addiction. We are constantly fighting fires, and that makes us feel productive. And so we go seek fires. It's a shiny object, essentially, instead of the boring, mundane feeling of operating a system. So we are constantly seeking dopamine and novelty and new. And so we'll also bounce between things. As soon as something gets boring, we're going to go find something else to do that sounds more fun. And again, this all hinders the way that we operate. And we have a bad habit often of letting rejection sensitivity drive our behavior. So we often say yes to things that we don't need to say yes to. And when you say yes to something, it means you're saying no to something that your future self probably wants or needs. And so the goal here is really to be intentional with understanding how you operate, whether you're spicy or completely neurotypical, but recognize behaviors and the mindset before you take action. So the reason so much of this is important to me is Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He's written about a dozen books now. And honestly, he's altered my brain chemistry. His articulation and premises just literally rewired my brain. But one of the quotes that stuck out to me the most is, you don't rise to the level of your vision or your goals, you fall to the level of your structure. So his book, Willpower Doesn't Work, is one of my all-time favorites. And I think it's really important for those of us that work, especially in an entrepreneurial space, where we're not as keen on structure, to understand that structure doesn't mean the same every day, and then every day of every week, and then every week of every month, and every month of every year. Structure can look a lot of different ways, and that's really what I want to help you with. So I operate with this visual in mind pretty much at all times. So I'm going to share it with you, but if you have questions before I move on, feel free to ask them in the chat or unmute yourself, because I want to make sure that this premise really sticks for you before we move into the how-to side of things. So in his most recent book, Dr. Hardy talks about our goals. Everybody has goals. Some people have small goals, they have big goals. He challenges you to think big and think about what is your biggest goal. Call it your impossible goal. And he says, all of us have so many competing priorities that we think align with that goal. However, when you try to compress the time that you achieve the goal in, it allows you to start to filter and recognize which priorities are probably higher and more important, and which may not need to be done at all, or they may get achieved along the way. So often what happens is, where we currently are is our floor, okay? And our floor is our current standards, our current systems, our current way we function. And when your systems are lacking, or you don't have a lot of good standards for the way that you operate in your world, your floor is lower, and you can see all those vertical lines that are priorities, they all look like they're equally important. And so what's really important for us is to be intentional by raising our floor. That better way to frame everything and change our perspective on what needs to happen to achieve our goal. And so when we do that, it allows us to focus our priorities and actually go, oh my goodness, that's the one that's going to get me to the goal way faster than these 12 other things that I thought I needed to do. So again, if you're a visual person, this literally changed my brain. But my whole point here is, systems and standards aren't meant to be a dirty word. All they are is the foundation for success. And by creating filters for yourself in how you look at your priorities, it can drastically change the way that you apply your energy, you use your time, and it can eliminate probably 80% of what you're currently doing. Because so often we get so distracted by things that we think are priorities. But if you can filter them and say, hey, does this thing that's on my to-do list actually make me money or move me towards my big goal? And if you say yes, great. If you say no, delete it. It's okay to delete it, okay? So again, if you guys have any questions on this, feel free to ask me now before I move on, because like I said, this is kind of the premise of how I operate, is let's focus on what matters, not on all the things at the same time. Okay. So here's how I operate, the time trifecta system. These are the 3 most important things for me in terms of being successful and setting yourself up for success. And this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about your calendar first. This is your time map. It's going to help us actually define those priorities and set the foundation for you to achieve your goals faster. Then we're going to talk about your email and the filtering system and creating this as a communication gatekeeper. It is not meant to be a to-do list for you created by other people. And so I really want to spend some time helping you eliminate up to 80% of the emails that you get in your inbox, because honestly, you don't need them. And then we're going to talk about how you can use tasks from your calendar and from your email to create an action plan and a follow-through engine so you can hit those goals that much faster. So all three of these things work together, and those, when you have them in alignment, might even buy you more than 5 hours a week. For me, they bought me about 20 hours a week once I implemented all three. Again, not meant to be a comparison thing or an ego thing. Just understand that when you lock these in a specific order, it's going to change the way that you operate. So before we talk all the details and the nitty gritty, I want you to remember, because I've taught this before and I'm teaching it again, and I know it happens every time. This is a process, not a one-day project, okay? It is not going to be something that you build today and suddenly your life changes tomorrow. You're going to have to revisit it and systematically work through it. So what I want to challenge you to do is start with the one thing where you currently are. So if everything that I say about the calendar you've already done, great, start with the email. If you've mastered all of that and you want to start with tasks, great, but you don't have to implement all three things at the same time. Do one until it becomes second nature and you're not thinking about it, then add the next one in. So remember, like I said, don't try to fix it all in the day. You're going to feel very overwhelmed if you try to do all the things at the same time. And so it really needs to become an unconscious behavior for you. And that's where implementing one thing at a time is the best strategy here. Okay. So calendar first. I grew up with a mother and a father who are both neurospicy as well, and a brother. My mom, 70 years old, still operates with her little pocketbook paper calendar. You know, it's in her purse. It goes everywhere with her. And when I was growing up, she would buy me pretty new planners every year. And every year, about 5 minutes into the school year, it would be sitting somewhere like a locker or a bookshelf. And I've never touched it since. So like even behind me on this shelf right now, I've got probably a dozen or more planners that I wrote in for maybe 24, 48 hours if I was lucky. I've never picked them up again. My dad, on the other hand, didn't know what a calendar was. He thought time was a plaything, you know? And so I've come from this big spectrum of things. And I truly believe that because we're in such a digital age, and because of the fact that we're always on the go as entrepreneurs, the best system is the one that's attached to something that you never leave home without, which is your phone. Okay. So everything I'm going to teach today, I'm going to teach through the lens of Google tools, because I believe that they are the most strategic and simple thing that you can use across a phone, a tablet, and a computer. And they all talk to each other, and it makes your life so much easier rather than trying to transfer from sticky notes to paper, to a calendar, to a thing. And I also believe that Google is the right answer, because I know too many people that operate in iCal, or they'll use the Samsung version if they're an Android person. And that's fine, but it's not an ecosystem that translates across all your devices. And so it makes things more difficult, because, you know, I taught this class last week in Keller Williams' office, and almost every person was like, yeah, I have an iPhone. And yet I got multiple notifications because I am logged into Google, I'm logged into iCal, and they don't talk to each other and all these things. So I'm going to show you why I believe this. But again, happy to answer questions and ask things as we go. And Terry, I love that you use your paper calendar and that it's customized for you. But I'm going through this way. And again, you have to choose what's right for you. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is just the approach that I've created and learned to help people, you know, who are starting usually from scratch or close to it. So where do calendars typically break down? They're not used consistently day in and day out. That's number one. They're usually trying to do it across multiple things. So like I said, a paper calendar, iCal, and a Google calendar with the brokerage or whatever business or company you're with. That's chaotic and messy, right? And most people don't create a habit for their time and their priorities And so when you're not doing it consistently and you're scattered and you're not, it just becomes this jumbled mess. And so people are like, I don't need a calendar, or I don't like calendaring, or time blocking is a farce, or whatever, objection that you might hear. But truly, honestly, it's not as difficult as I feel like people make it out to be. And so that's where I want to spend a little bit of time helping you go from overwhelm to feeling like you're in flow and you're moving with intention. Because being busier is not a badge of priority. Honestly, your biggest flex is how little time you have to work to accomplish your goals, not how much time, right? I was running a 450 agent brokerage almost essentially by myself because we had so much turnover with the team that I didn't have a part in hiring. And I was working 60 plus hours a week. And every time that I was in the office, I was putting out fires until the office closed. And then I did my job after close until life hit me between the eyes. So it's one of those things where I respect the hustle, the drive, the motivation. I've been there, I've done that. But that behavior cost me not being able to ride in the ambulance with my son when he had a cardiac event because I was so focused on working. It cost me my health. I developed type 2 diabetes while working like that because I was constantly on the go, eating crap, not focused on self-care, to the point that I ended up in the hospital with sugars over 400. And they're like, we don't know how you actually walked in here, right? And so all of those things, and I know health is just one example, but it's like, it's so important to create space for yourself and create the time flex, because that is your most precious resource. So again, sorry, it's a little soapboxy, but it truly matters because everything else stems from understanding where you spend your time. So when I first heard the term time blocking, I was told that I had to block every day and then block every week and have them recurring future events. And I should expect to do the same thing on every day of every week of every month of every year. And 12.3 seconds into that, something got in my way and it messed up every time block for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, and the rest of the month. And I was like, time blocking sucks and you are stupid, right? I vehemently hated this concept. And it was because I was taught incorrectly. The person who did it didn't understand what a block could do for you. So it's not about creating blocks. It's about being intentional with the time to block for the right things and remove those lesser priorities. Okay. So we're going to block for the big things. We're not going to block for the tiny stuff. So, and the thing is that future blocking is not appropriate because you need to plan for how you actually operate, not set up ideal blocks of who you want to be. And that to me was the most freeing concept when I finally got to that point of understanding that, if I'm reading The Miracle Morning and it says start at 5 a.m., that might not work with my brain or my energy or my schedule with my kid, right? My miracle morning, the concept of getting up and spending some time on yourself is great, but mine might start after I drop my kid off at school at 8 o'clock. My business day might not start till noon. I might work Thursday to Sunday and take off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Whatever works for you is what matters, not here's the ideal calendar Monday to Friday. Okay. And so when you can intentionally protect time for needle moving activities and not just react to fires, you're going to see the switch flip for yourself in your time and your calendar. Our friends at Keller Williams, Jay Papasan and Gary Keller, wrote this amazing book, The One Thing. And what they said was extraordinary results happen only when you give the best you have to become the best you can be at your most important work. I think a lot of people think this quote applies to all work, but not all tasks are created equal. Not all meetings are created equal. Time is precious. And so you have to be intentional about showing up at 100% in the space that's going to give you the most return for your time, energy, and money. Okay. So what a calendar built for you should look like It's based on your energy. What days do you show up best? What times do you show up best? I know that I prefer to do my intentional work in the business work on Mondays and Tuesdays. I work a lot with clients and teach classes and join community calls and all of that on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And then Fridays, I have a bookend meeting with one of my business partners and I'm done for the day. Because that's the way that my energy shows up. That's the way my brain operates. And I do all of that between the time my kid goes to school and the time that I have to pick him up. And so I have created this compressed space for myself that also works with the way that my energy works. I started a coaching program years ago, and one of the first things that I heard the individual say was, you need to Spanx your calendar. And since I've got a lot of women on this call, I hope you appreciate this. But what that individual said was, you have to block your bookends to your day, your start and your stop, before you put anything else on your calendar. Because your personal time, the time that you are doing whatever you need to do to be you, should be your very first non-negotiable. So it's not actually, again, about how much you can accomplish towards your goals in the workspace. But when you put yourself first, you miracle morning it, you create a routine of whatever it looks like for you, gym, reading, coffee, I don't care what it is. When you put that and compress the time, you're going to actually find that you get more done, because you're going to be intentional with how much white space you have between those bookends. Okay. So that is one of my favorite things, is looking at a calendar and going, okay, when am I starting my day? When am I saying I am done? And being intentional with that will really change the way that you use the rest of the time. And I'm going to challenge you to also build in time in that compressed space for deep work or flexing, right? What I mean by that is, not every moment that's white space should be a meeting with somebody else. You need to have space to learn. You need to have space to study. You need to have space to build or operate or do things. And so you should never have a calendar that from the moment that your personal blocks ends to the moment that the next one begins is all meetings. You can't operate in a healthy and intentional way that way. So make sure that you leave space for yourself to breathe and to do, because you're going to show up way better when you do that. Okay. So this is just an example of a calendar. And the whole reason I wanted to show you this, and again, we're going to get into the color coding and why I like it and all the things, but it's not something that you have to build today. I just wanted to show you what it looks like to map for your energy here. So you can see I've got my gray is my Spanxed time, right? I'm very intentional here with, here's morning time, personal time. That might be workouts, that might be reading, that might be Bible study, it might be whatever it is. Family time is getting a kid ready for school, you know, all that kind of stuff. Maybe you got book club on Wednesday nights, or maybe you guys are going to a concert on a Friday night. I don't care how it is, but the idea is that you are so intentional with those Spanxed times first. And then I really encourage people to put the deep work, the stuff that needs your brain the most, earlier in the day, not people. Because I find that your energy and the results show up better when you do the thing that you need to do to move the business forward when you're most fresh in the morning, or the first part of whatever your workday looks like, even if your workday starts at 2 p.m. People you can show up with a different level of energy for most of the time towards the end of the day, and then wrap up your day and feel really good. But whatever you're doing, stack it, because it takes an average of 15 minutes to switch task types. And so if you're constantly pivoting from, oh, I got a client, oh, I got to be on this meeting, oh, I got to do this email, oh, I got to do this paperwork, oh, I got to do this thing, and you're jumping back and forth, you are wasting 15 minutes every time you're switching type of thing. Okay. So if you can batch them together, you're going to reduce how much energy and time you waste switching between things. Okay. So this is, again, not a perfect calendar. I don't care what yours looks like. It's just an idea of how you can batch and understand how your energy is going to work, right? So how those blocks those color coding, all of that might look for you, because color coding helps our brains trigger and stay batched. One example might be lead generation. You're growing your business. You might be meeting with clients or servicing them or whatever. That's your appointments. Administrative tasks, that's all the little nitty gritty stuff on your to-do list, but you don't have to put every little thing on your calendar, right? Training is another one. So this could be a time block. And then again, your personal time. And I don't want you to sit here and feel like you have to be, I think there's 13 colors on a Google Calendar. I don't need you to have 13 different types of blocks. Okay. You can start with dollar producing activities and non-dollar producing activities as 2 colors. But the idea here is, like I told you, a calendar is truly an energy map. And so when you can start looking at your calendar and seeing where you're spending your energy and whether or not it's driving the business forward, this is going to help you grow so much. So the reason I like color coding is Google has this thing built in, and it's called Time Insights. And what they will do is they will actually help you track your time by the color you choose. So the color coded categories, and I'm going to show you what this looks like, they will actually tell you how much time you're actually spending in each category, not just what you think you are. Because you might be like, oh, I think that I talk to clients on average 2 hours a week. But then when you put the time block in and you use the insight, you're like, oh, that was 14 hours. Oops, right? And so these become very telling of where you are actually showing up and what your current priorities are, and can help you move towards the priorities that you know need to be priorities, right? So when you have insight, it allows you to take action. And again, this is a visual feedback opportunity. I know not everybody is visual, and that's fine, but this is the fastest and easiest way to spot some of those imbalances when you think, perception-wise, that you are completely balanced. And then you look at your calendar, you're like, oh, snap. So how does this work? Inside any Google Workspace account, so this is any sort of business account, it's not an @Gmail account. So like mine's @jessweber.com or @kw.com or whatever business type account it is, that's a workspace account. When you log into calendar.google.com, you will see this button on the side. It's always been there, but I swear to you, every time I teach this class, people are like, that wasn't there. That wasn't there until you told me it was there. And when you click it, it opens up this sidebar. And you can toggle between type and by color. I typically use color because, again, it's that visual opportunity. And so you can see on this calendar, it's blank. So it's not really giving me anything. But I actually took a screenshot of my own personal calendar last week to show you what I mean. So when you are intentional with your blocks, and I've got all my businesses lined out here, right? And they're all different colors, and my personal time and all the things. When you have your stuff color coded, whatever your view is, so right now this is a view of a week. When I hover over one of those colors, it pops them out so they stand out more, and it tells you how much time you've spent in it that week, how much you have blocked. And so I think this is a really important thing because, like I said, it's important to have that learning, creation, deep work space. You can see right now on this calendar, I have 0 hours of that. I have 0 hours of taking time off. I have 0, and I've already spent 6 hours allotted to meetings. And this was a screenshot taken on a Tuesday, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like, oh, snap, this is where I'm spending my time. And are those things where I'm spending my time in alignment with the big priority to help me hit my goals? Yes or no? And so, again, you don't have to go back. Like, I know we're almost at the end of August. Please do not, for the love of Pete, sit here and try to do January through August. What are we at? 27. Just start with today and move forward. And then, because you can look at it by day, you can look at it by week, you can look at it by month. And then when you've done it for a whole year, it's terrifying when you look at it for a whole year view. But you have the option of looking at all of those when you start doing this habitually. And again, if that number of colors is overwhelming to you, I'll challenge you, start with 2 things: dollar producing activity and non-dollar producing activity for your business. And then a third one would be personal time. If you can just start there, you can visually go, ah, crud. I have spent 20 of my 30 work hours on non-dollar producing activities. I need to reassess what I'm doing, right? So this time insights is the number one game-changing thing once you start recognizing how to use a calendar and how to be intentional with your bookends. Okay. So, Blanca, this is my regular calendar.google.com webpage. This is a week at a glance. And all I did was show up with the time insights. And again, at the end, I can actually click in a real calendar and show you all the things. Okay. So this is just a screenshot, because what I'm going to do is when I send out this recording, I'm also going to send you a PDF of all of the slides. And I do that so that it helps you remember exactly what I said. You can look at the screenshots. You can also feed it into your ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever AI you're using and say, hey, here's what Jess said. Here's what Jess taught. Here's what I'm doing in mine. Help me out. So I will send you all of this stuff to be extra helpful as you start to implement. So again, sorry, I forgot I had an arrow there, but all those time insights, totally game changing when you get to that point. And so I want to talk weekly. I want you to have your appointments and external commitments to other humans first on your calendar after your personal time, because those are non-negotiable. But the only thing that you need to future date on your calendar besides your personal time is meetings, okay, where you're accountable to another human. This is where people fall into the trap of trying to future block out all of their tasks and to-dos. And then again, fires happen, life gets in the way, and you very quickly have to start moving them. And then you get very angry at your time blocks in your calendar, and you're like, this system is crap and blah, blah, blah. And it just like cycles from there. So start weekly, make sure you've got all your appointments in. I do this habitually on Fridays for the following week. So that way I can start Monday fresh without being overwhelmed by things. Daily, I'll challenge you. Check the calendar, make sure the meetings are still on there that you need to be accountable to, because more often than not, I have clients cancel, change their mind, whatever. So I check every morning. And then what I do is I look at how much white space is left. Some days it might be a half hour. Some days it might be 4. But what I do is I fill that remaining white space either the morning of, worst case the day before, but I don't ever like future block out, and fill it with 1 to 3 big priority actions, right? So this is again why those color coding things can be so helpful, because if you're sitting here and saying, this is the one thing I need to get done today, it's paperwork for a real estate transaction. It is completing this web page for this website that we're building for whatever your biggest thing is, that's the thing that goes on first, and it goes on the earliest in your day. And you figure out how much time you have. You might have only time to do one thing. The most you're likely going to get accomplished is 3 big things. Now, if you do have a task list of like a lot of nitty gritty stuff, put a time block of like to-dos, right? Maybe you give yourself an hour to work on your to-dos that are like small things. I don't want to see like 5-minute time blocks, because that's a waste of your time to put all those little things in, right? But 1 to 3 big priorities that are going to move your life forward, that is what goes in the white space. Okay. Don't feel like white space is wasted space. That's where intentionality lives. So like I said, deep work, learning, white space, so that you have time to do that in your week is crazy important. It might be that you were on the go and you were listening to a podcast and you heard somebody and you wanted to go back and take notes on it. Or you're reading a book on productivity written by somebody, or you're a brand, or whatever the thing it may be. It's okay to take time in your day to learn something. I hate that people feel like they have to operate and do all day. You will be a better person if you use the white space. So don't be afraid of it. Don't feel like you have to fill it up in advance. Use it as a tool. Remember, 12-week year fan, don't need more time. You need more focus. focus is the key to success. Everybody has the same amount of time. So how you spend it matters. Remember, your calendar is the backbone of your life, your business, your success. It's going to show you your priorities. It's not a to-do list. One of my first clients, when I first started business coaching, brought me her calendar, because that's one of the things I always ask to look at when I first get started with somebody. And literally every to-do she had was in her calendar as a time block. And every day that she didn't get those things done, she moved all those time blocks manually to the next day. I was like, what a waste of time. You're never going to get those done. It's not worth it. And it just makes you resent your calendar. So when you can prioritize yourself, put your bookends in first, put your meetings to people in, and then leverage the white space, that is that roadmap to success. So you can honestly see, where is your energy going? Where did I spend a lot of energy and I'm not liking it? And this can help you avoid burnout. If you're sitting here going, oh, I scheduled 27 hours of meetings and I don't like people. Maybe I need to be more intentional and figure out what meetings I need to show up to. Did I really need to be on that group call that's scheduled twice a week? Is that actually feeding me in my business, or am I just socializing, right? So figure out where your time and energy are being spent so you can avoid burnout. Balance your reactive time with deep work time. So honestly, like if Tuesday was put out 47 fires day, just because it happened to be, give yourself the space to recover the next day. Take the time you need and be okay with recovery time, because rest and reset are only going to allow you to be better. If you keep trying to grit and grind your way through, you're going to burn out. So be okay with that. And I believe in making your ideal week visible and measurable. So that's why I like the Google Calendar, because it does all the math for me. I don't have to sit there. No offense, Terry, but like I would not want to do the math in my paper calendar every day to figure out where I was spending my time. So I really value the fact that all this technology exists for me to be able to just look at it at a glance and not waste the time doing it to get those insights. Okay, so your next move, if you're trying to get your calendar where it needs to be, open it up, start using time blocks first. Don't even have to go to the color coding yet. Start with time blocking. Put in your start time, put in your end time, put in your meetings, and each day be intentional with those time blocks. Then once that becomes habitual, you can start color coding, using time insights, and be more intentional because you're more aware. So I really want you to not feel overwhelmed and try to implement everything in the calendar today if it's brand new to you. But like I said, if you're already along this line and you've done a lot of it already, figure out what you haven't done yet or tweak it to level it up. Okay. And every time I teach you something, I want you to think about how you can do it in under 30 minutes. So again, for the love of Pete, please do not go back and try to color code your entire year, because that will take you more than 30 minutes. This is meant to be something that is a tool moving forward and setting you up for a habit, not creating past overwhelm and regret. Okay, so this is where I really want you to be intentional with the time, use the time as a tool, and create this habit here. Okay, that's your calendar. How you guys feeling? Are you okay? Have I totally crushed your souls? No? Okay. I appreciate feedback. Massive success doesn't require massive action. It just requires the right action done consistently. So again, it's not about more. It's not about superhero capes and spandex tights, but it's really about being intentional and doing it consistently. Another phrase that I love here is consistency compounds. And success is boring, but success is won through daily consistent actions. And so I'll challenge you that if you are the dopamine seeking, novelty seeking human, create some sort of reward system for yourself, create an opportunity where you get a dopamine hit by achieving the action, achieving the habit, and achieving the consistency. So if you notice behind me, I have a couple of books. I might have an addiction to books. I earn the right to buy books if I stick to my time blocks each week. So I have a list in my Kindle because I buy most of them digitally, and then these all get signed by the authors when I go see them in person. But I earn the right to spend a certain amount per week buying digital books if I stuck to my priorities and I achieve the goal for the week. So I define success for myself, and I create these micro wins that keep me interested in the boring stuff. They keep me interested in the consistency and the habit. So whatever you need to do to create that novelty, that dopamine, all of that, while implementing something that might seem really boring, I will challenge you to figure out what that is and lean into it and be okay with it. Because when I go buy books, then during my deep work time, I get to read them. So I'm like, I'm creating this like ever flowing, consistent thing for myself. And that makes me a better person. It makes me more productive. And it's really exciting when I'm like, oh, I get to buy new books this week. So, okay, calendar's done. When you feel like you have got calendar on lock, here's where we're going to go next. Your email inbox. And the reason this is so big to me is because the average person spends 2.5 hours per day in their inbox. That is 30% of their work week lost to busy work of clicking and playing with emails that don't matter. So if you can follow what I'm going to teach you here, you should easily be able to shave off 2 of the 2.5 hours every single day. So my promise of a minimum of 5 hours, hopefully will be more like 10 or 15 when this is all said and done. Why does email create chaos? Well, it's flooded with things you don't need to act on. How many of us sign up for a free PDF or a free class or a free thing, and then you get stuck in a mailing list, and then there's 427 emails when you blink because you signed up for the one thing? Yeah. So those are things you don't need to act on, right? And they're constant notifications, there's constant dings that you don't even need to respond to or deal with in the moment. And yet those create chaos and distractions. Because we get so many things in our inbox, and some are high priority, important conversations with a human, or responders for a meeting or something that's relevant to your business, and then you get all the junk, you're constantly rereading because you're trying to filter and switch. Was this important? Did I need this? Oh my God, I got 12 from Jess today. I don't know which one was a newsletter and which one was her class. Did I need to, do this thing? Did I need to wear this color shirt? Like, I mean, it creates chaos because you're always rereading instead of acting and just dealing with it in the moment. Every time that you're bored doing the thing you're doing and you're like, I'm just going to go check my email. Let's face it, you probably get distracted, right? Because it's like, oh, there's a new newsletter. Let me read that. Oh, there's a new thing to sign up for. Oh, there's a new free PDF I can click on. Oh, I'm going to feed that into my chat GPT. And then, oh, it's going to create this to-do list for me. And wait a minute, where did 3 hours go, right? It happens too frequently to us because we want to do big things. We have big goals. We have big vision, but we also have the ability to get big distracted. So most often our inbox is actually managing us. We're not managing it. That's why it feels chaotic and why email sucks. So this is my intention, is to help you reduce that, because as my friend Dan Martell says, your inbox is a to-do list that other people can write on. It is a to-do list created for you by other humans, and it doesn't need to be. So I want you to start thinking about an inbox as a sorting station. It's not a to-do list, right? You don't need to respond to everything immediately. This is one of my biggest soapboxes when I start working with teams or organizations, is setting levels of communication or tiers, right? When I first meet an entrepreneur, almost every time they believe that calls, texts, emails, and maybe even Google Chat are all equal in the eyes of their team. And so they believe that it's okay to email you, forward you a thought, and then text you about it, and then call you about it, and then leave you a voice memo, and then do this. And it's like you have to play connect the dots or conspiracy theorist with the yarn, trying to figure out a train of thought. Not all communication is created equal, and email is the lowest tier. So in my world, house is on fire. Hopefully, if you're in real estate, not literally, but house is on fire is phone call, right? It's an immediate need, or it's a set, hey, I'm calling you at 3 p.m. to discuss something, right? Text message is, hey, I really need like a pretty fast response. I can't wait for a response otherwise. So I'm texting you, but I'm also respecting you enough because it's not a house on fire situation. Then is, to me, if you're on a team, Google Chat or some sort of team communication in a contained space that keeps things off people's personal phones, to me, is way like the number one space that everybody should be operating in. Email, you notice I didn't say that in those three. Email is only a tool to connect you to somebody else outside your organization. It is not a communication system between team members. And when you can change the way that you treat email, you are going to feel like a different person. So literally, like I said, I operate multiple businesses in the same day. And my business partners know that if they email me, they might not see a response for 24 or 48 hours because it better not be important. I check my email multiple times a day, but I spend less than 30 minutes in an inbox and I manage 10 of them. So when you can create a system and set expectations with the people in your world, it makes your life a lot easier. And that way, when something high priority comes in, and I'm using real estate as an example just because that's my background prior to coaching, real estate, you're waiting on inspections, you're waiting on transaction documents. I understand things come into your inbox, but if you can create a system where that's the only high priority thing coming in, you're going to spend a lot less time in it than getting distracted with all the other stuff, right? So to me, creating expectations around the fact that you are not going to respond like a text message or a phone call to emails will change the way you feel about all incoming emails. Honestly, by the time we're done with this, 80% of your emails should be automated, deleted, or just ignored. And I'm going to show you how to do that with the tools inside Gmail so that you don't have to do it manually. Okay. But the goal is you're not even reading or responding to more than 20% of what comes to your inbox anymore. So how I do this, first and foremost, you got to simplify the inboxes. If you're in Google, then you know the default is an inbox, plus there's usually updates and promotions and priority. Turn all those off. I hate them all. They can go burn. The only thing that I need you to have is unread first and then an everything else layout. So singular inbox, unread first. I'm going to show you what this looks like visually in a second, and then everything else. The reason this helps is you don't have to toggle between different inboxes, and you can keep an eye on the unreads and the number of unreads and know whether or not something coming in is new, because your unread number should be small. It might not be 0, it might be 1, it might be 5, that's okay. But you should not have to doom scroll through the 43,000 emails because you're trying to figure out, have I read that? Have I not read that? Have I done this? Have I not done this? So unread first, game-changing way to operate. I'm going to show you what it looks like. So today's most urgent and unsorted mail is what's going to show up in that unread. And then everything else is either previously handled or it's automatically filtered. And then it's the space where you either archive or delete. Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Inside your inbox, when you set this up, you can see I turned off priority, I turned off promotions, I turned off updates, and I turned on, using this lovely little gear icon right up here, the unread first. And so this allows me to only look at what's there. Okay, I love this field and I love this filter because I can go so much faster by knowing that in the morning, I'm going to look at my unreads and my everything. And then every time I check my email the rest of the day, which is only usually about twice, once about lunchtime and once about end of day, I'm only going to look at the unread inbox because that's going to be a lot smaller than everything else. So once a day, I filter my everything else. And then 2 or 3 times a day, I look at unread. It makes your life faster. Then once you start getting used to that, which I know feels weird at first, but it allows you to not have to check in on things multiple times. There's a couple other things that visually help you create triggers to go even faster. So in your advanced settings, again, that gear icon, you can turn on that reading panel. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. And that means you don't have to click into every email and then click out of it. When you click on it, it shows up on your screen without having you to open and close, open and close. Imagine how many clicks that saves if you're doing at least 2 clicks per email and you're going through 100 emails, right? Time adds up. And so when you are intentional with how you set up your inbox, you make this go so much faster. Secondly, mark as read when opened. So when you actually click, hover on it, look at it, read it, it auto marks it as open. So you don't have to click, oh yes, this is already open. That means it's going to move everything from your unread to your everything else way faster. Again, fewer clicks saves you more time. The other feature that I flip and love that people never turn on, but they should, is the Gmail tab counter. What I mean is if you're operating in Google Chrome and you turn this on, when you see the little icon in your tab in your internet, it will put a number over it of unread emails. When you start to apply some of the other stuff I'm going to show you here, it allows you to watch that number. And if it stays the same between your morning time block and let's say your lunchtime block, you don't even have to open your inbox. You can just do the next thing. So that little counter saves you a ton of time because you can be like, oh, there's only one email. I'll quickly look at it and move on. Or, oh, look, it stayed exactly the same. I can move past it. So you're not getting distracted by all that everything else stuff if you're focused on the unreads, okay? So again, here's that visual. I just clicked that too fast. So this side, this is that view of the read panel, right? So if I clicked on an email, it would show up right here without opening that email. And again, makes things go much faster. And then like I said, in the tab, in the upper corner, that little, you can see it on here, it's a 0, but it'll change based on your number of unreads. And so again, that becomes a visual. If you have this as a pinned tab or a tab that's already open, always open on your Chrome, you can just keep an eye on it and be like, oh, okay, there's one that popped up, great. And that way, if you are somebody who's operating in a space where you're waiting for a time-sensitive email, you don't have to click on it every 15 minutes to look. You'll see it come in and you can stop what you're doing if you need to do something like that. So that's my first thing is setting up the visual side. Labels are going to help us go visual plus organize that much further. So labels are Google's tag system, and they automatically get organized alphabetically. So it makes your life pretty easy. You don't have to click and drag in order. But if you want to be intentional with the order that your tags appear or your labels appear, you can just numerically organize them. So it will default numbers before letters. So you can put 1, 2, 3 in front of your highest priority labels, and that'll force that order if that's important to you. I just operate mostly in the alphabetical space. But here's my favorite thing, and this is where I sometimes lose people, so I want to be intentional here. Sublabels allow you to create specific things. So for example, my category labels are big umbrellas in my business. I have a financial tab or financial label, right? And then in the financial label, it has each different credit card, each different bank, each different invoice, however I want to organize that as a sublabel beneath it. And so that way I can say, oh, I want to see all invoices, great. Or I want to see only invoices from Weber Consulting LLC. And then I can click on that sublabel and go there. So it makes it easier for you to auto sort and view things at a glance without having to search and organize, because those labels are just those tags and you can use as many as you want per email. So it's not like one email gets only one label. You can have 3 or 4 or 6 or 10 if you need them. The other thing that's super helpful, again, just like the time insights, is you can start color coding your labels. So for me, I have, my dollar producing things, my financial things are going to be a different color than my coaching clients, are going to be a different color than my other business stuff, are going to be different than my newsletters. And by using those colors, when I'm looking at my unread emails at a glance, I can very quickly be like, oh, okay, those are newsletters. I can ignore those. Oh, that is an invoice that needs to be paid. That's a higher priority. Oh, that's communication from a client. I actually need to respond to that, right? So those labels then become visual triggers where you don't even have to hardly read the email before you know what's in the email because of the color coding and the way that you use those. They also can be used two different ways, which not everybody recognizes. So you can use them short-term or indefinitely. So like I have a ton of them defaulted for my newsletters because I do hoard knowledge and collect newsletters. I joke I'm a dragon hoarder. But I like to keep newsletters that I feel like are good copy and relevant, or they attach a lot of tools that I might use eventually. So those are my indefinite ones. I can sort by it. I can like click on the one thing and read every single thing that Jay's written, right? But I also use them short term with my business partner. So I'll go into his inbox and there might be 5 things that I need him to look at before he does anything else. So I'll use a short term label and it says, needs immediate attention with some emojis that yell at him. And it stands out and it's a bright red color. And so he knows that he has to go pay attention to that label if he sees that there's emails in that label that are showing up. And then he'll address them and he'll remove the label so that I know he's done and we never have to talk about them. So you can use them, again, like I said, indefinitely or short term. It's whatever's going to work for your brain. And you go as deep as you need to go. If you start with 2 labels just to get started, like necessary and unnecessary, you can start there. And then you can develop them more thoroughly. But they're going to change the way that you look at that email inbox when you can visually and color code how things are coming in rather than just looking at a long list. So like I said, I use short-term ones, needs attention, waiting for response, something like that is really great. If you have like an admin, director of operations, a VA, something like that, that's a great trigger where it's not like, hey, Adam, you need to do this thing. And then you can, tell me when you're done. He just uses the label and knows it's there. If you have a million labels, you can go in and just delete them. Honestly, that's what I would do. And I don't know of any way to bulk delete them, unfortunately. So that's where, if you are somebody who played with these in the past and made them messy, I would sit in front of the TV, like put on a show that you like, but you don't need to pay attention to 100%, Selling Sunset or something. Although I'm going to, pardon the language, my husband calls them the brokerage bitches, and it's really entertaining. But put on something that's kind of mindless, but it gives you a little bit of something to listen to, right? And you can sit there and just like delete or reorganize those labels. Because if you have labels that you like, but they're organized messily, you could create key heading labels like financial, and then you have the ability to actually move and say, hey, this label that's Bank of America needs to go under financials, and just tell it to move. And you don't have to recreate a new label or anything like that. So I would just spend some time. Again, don't spend more than 30 minutes in a block usually, because you're going to get really angry at it otherwise, but be intentional with those labels. And they can live indefinitely. So like I know somebody who went so extreme that they were a real estate agent, because that's, like I said, where my background is. And they had a label for every property that they helped clients with. So they had a client folder, and then it was literally like 123 Main Street, buyer Jess Weber, right? And they had like hundreds of them because they were a prolific agent. So what they did was they made like clients that were 2025, clients that were 2024, and they made some bigger buckets and then moved people in there. And then at the end of the year, they would move everything like after 3 years, because they had to keep it for compliance purposes, into a past clients folder, and it was just everybody. So they kept 2023, 2024, and 2025 organized for compliance, and then they had an everything else folder. So again, it's going to be what works for your brain. This is again where I would lean into a GPT or something like that, AI of some kind, to say, hey, I am really struggling with this. I want to make it efficient for me and my brain. And yet I also want to leverage the power of labels, because you could use one label for a husband and a wife who are both buying a property, and they could both, their email communications, whether it's one-to-one or it's a group thread, can all go under the same label. So those labels can become super beneficial if you're trying to look at like the chaos of a thread. Because 123 Main Street in real estate could be a lender, it could be inspection, it could be the buyers, the sellers, the agent on the other side of the deal, the broker, the title rep. I mean, it could be a 10 or 15 person transaction. And so you can create a label that says everything that says 123 Main Street, from these 10 people all goes to that label, and it helps things that way. So you're going to have to play with it. I can't tell you the right answer for you without looking at your inbox and how you operate, but just understand that they can be leveraged and organized in a way that feels less chaotic. So what does that look like? Here's a sample of mine. Is like I said, I use the 1, 2, 3 to organize the big stuff, but then I just let everything else fall alphabetically. So like all my newsletters, I'll put the name of the person and the company name, and then I have it organized that way. So if like I'm looking for Jay Papazon, it says the one thing, and then that way I can go click on it and go find it, right? But all of those fall under newsletters. So that way, if I turn that little arrow guy sideways, it hides all my specific newsletter labels and you just see the newsletter. And so anytime you want to play with labels, it's just that plus sign that the arrow is pointing to, and you can add a label, you can add a sub label. And then once you've created one, when you hover over it, there's 3 little dots like you see right here. These 3 dots are in everything in Google, and that'll allow you to change the colors. It'll allow you to move them if they're already created. Say like if I hovered over financials, it would let me say, oh, move this under another label, and I can move financials under money if I wanted to, or something like that. So again, you can't break Google products. Trust me, I challenge everybody to try. And then I tell you that if you have an issue, come find me, because I would love to see how you think you broke it. But honestly, you're not going to break it, right? And so go ahead and play with it. The worst you're going to do is create too many labels and have to delete them. That's it. Labels are not folders. So if you delete a label, it's not going to delete the email. The email is part of the inbox system. It is not a folder. So if I deleted newsletters right now, I would still keep every email in my inbox. And that's a question I get a lot, so I did want to say that here. But the whole key is just to minimize how much you're doing, okay? And get a little bit more organized. Now, my favorite thing of all time is automation. So I've taught you how I do things to simplify, but automation is going to speed it up that much faster for you. So fewer clicks means more time back in your world. So filters can make your inbox run itself. This is where that 80% comes in. What they can do is they can be created by an email address. They can be created by a subject line, or created by a keyword. So you can use them in different ways. And some of the things that they do, they can automatically apply a label for you. They can automatically mark a newsletter as read. They can automatically archive or delete something so it skips the inbox completely. Or my other favorite thing that I don't go into a ton here in this class, but I use a lot, is you can make an email automatically reply to somebody with a templated email that's already created. And so these filter actions allow you to simplify so much, because every time a newsletter comes in, I have it auto apply the label to the newsletter and mark it as read, so it drops down to my everything else, and it's not triggering my inbox as a new notification for a new unread email. But when it's in everything else, I can strategically look at it during my morning time block and say, oh, is that something I want to read? And then do I want to save it, or do I want to delete it? Right? And so the filter saved me the time of having to mark it as read. It saved me the time of having to apply the label, and it kept it out of my important unread inbox, but I didn't lose it at the same time. So these filters can be huge in doing that automatic application for you. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So in the top of your email inbox, in your search bar, there's a little filter button right on the edge of the search bar. And if you click it, it pops up this lovely thing where it says from, to, subject, everything. And when you put in something, this button that says create filter pops up. So from jess@jessweber.com, and then you click create filter, it pops up this second box, and that will say, what do you want to happen when Jess emails come in? Do you want to archive it? Do you want to mark it as read? Do you want to apply a label? Do you want to automatically delete it? I hope not, but if you do, you do. Do you want to, put it somewhere? And one of my other favorite things here is it can backdate things. So it'll, anything that was sent by Jess@jessweber.com, if you're like adding the label of like Jess is awesome, right? You can say apply to everything Jess has ever sent, and it'll put the Jess is awesome label on all of those. So you don't have to go back and find old ones. This is also great if you find that you somehow got on some junk mail or spam list and you've tried to unsubscribe, but at the same time you keep getting stuff from them. What I do is I'll create a label from the sender, right? Whatever the email that it's coming from. And then I will just say, delete it. And so every time that sender comes in now, I did this a lot with like MLS email blasts when I was in real estate, and I couldn't stand like the, hey, open house that I got 1,400 times a day. And so I just had to delete all those because I didn't need to save them. So they didn't need to fill up my inbox. I didn't need to look at them because I honestly didn't care. And so I just auto deleted everything, because anything that you delete stays in your trash for 30 days. So once you click delete, it's not deleted forever immediately. You can always go look at your trash and find it if you messed it up or something. But it's okay to delete emails, which is something I feel like people are afraid to do. So filters can help you do that automatically in a way that's way easier and way less clicks. So again, when you set up the systems with the labels, the inboxes, the filters, I will challenge you to block one time a day to fully review your inbox. So this is look at your unreads first, figure out what needs to go on your calendar or to-do list, what needs to be replied to or saved for later, and then go look at your everything else, which should be like your newsletters and junk mail and stuff like that, shopping notifications from different companies. Figure out, do I need to delete it or do I need to archive it? And everybody asks me this question as well. I don't understand where to find it if I use archive. What is archive? Archive means it takes it out of the inbox, but it does not delete it. So it is still a searchable, findable thing attached to your account, but it removes the count of emails that you see in your actual inbox. So I don't only shoot for a 0 inbox in my unreads, but I shoot for as low of a number in my everything else as possible. But most of the time, my everything else will be like email threads that I'm talking to somebody on and I've replied. Now I'm waiting for their response. So it's sitting there. I haven't archived it because it's in my everything else as a reminder to look at daily in case I need to email them again like 24 hours later and be like, hi, and in case you didn't see my last email, that kind of thing. But it's not filling up that unread space and making me stressed that I haven't done something that I need to do. So one time a day, review the whole inbox, unread and everything else. Then, depending on what industry you're in, schedule 1 or 2 quick check-ins just to look at your unread tab. Now, like I said, if you're in a time-sensitive industry that operates in email, maybe it's 3 times. But using the little counter in your thing can really help you out there. So that tab in Chrome can change how frequently you feel the need to check. So if filters are leveraged correctly, it becomes a high signal, low distraction thing in your world instead of a high distraction, low signal, which is what most inboxes are these days. Okay. So I'm going to challenge you every time you're in your inbox, automate things, your read status, the filters, the labels, batch and sort prioritizing, everything. So what I do is in the morning, when I go through my unread and my everything else, if there is a label that's missing or a filter that's missing, I just make it that morning. If doing it in the moment stresses you out, just once a week, be like, okay, is there anything I need to delete? Is there anything I need to change? Is there anything I need to label? And that's fine too. But be intentional with batching things and not feeling like you have to do it all at once. And then cut things out. Don't save every email. I can guarantee you that the majority of the world who saves newsletters never goes back to them. So read it and delete it, unless it truly is something that you're going to share with somebody else or you're going to teach later. And then it's okay to save. But you are not going to go back and read everything. So don't feel like you have to save it all. But the goal here really is cut out the repetition of open, read, open. Oh my God, did I read this? Oh, did I act on this? Oh, did I do this? So when you do this, it helps provide clarity about what, clarity about what matters provides clarity about what does not. The more time that you get clarity on what you're doing and how you're operating and how you communicate, it's going to help you figure out what actually matters in your day. And I can guarantee you it's not your inbox. So your email routine, once you've got the calendar on lock, is again, try to start checking it only when it's scheduled. Archive and delete aggressively. Systematically adjust your labels and filters. And don't save things you're never going to read. I don't know why. Oh, that's funny. So I thought I deleted the other one. But anyways, your biggest thing that you need to do here, open your inbox, set it up for success when you're ready. That means the reading pane, that means the unread and the everything else. Then start building your labels and organizing them for your brain. Create those filters. Start with 1, then do 2, then do 3. Don't feel like you have to do them all today. And stay committed. Again, just like the time blocks, the habit in your email is going to change the way that you operate. Okay, I've now thrown 2 heavy things at you. I'm going to go through tasks a little bit faster, and then we'll have time for Q&A. So tasks or to-do lists is one of the spaces that I get the most anxiety from when I start working with somebody. Because most of the time it's like 300 tiny little things, and they have no way to prioritize or organize them. So I want to show you a couple of tools inside Google Calendar and tasks that allow you to organize them and stay out of the chaos and eliminate hopefully sticky notes from your life unless you're sticking them to something else. So why is your task list broken? It lives in too many tools. Again, Post-its, apps, inboxes, because you're using your calendar and your email as a task list, all that kind of stuff. Stop it. Pick one. The reason, again, I like Google is you have it on your phone. So you won't forget to check it, or you won't ignore it, and you won't lose things like sticky notes or notebooks if you're always putting it in the thing that's surgically attached to you. Most of the time when people have a list, they start reacting and not focusing on what moves the needle. So they aren't intentional with the list and reprioritizing top to bottom what's on it. And let's face it, there's no connection between to-do lists and time. Okay. So remember James Clear, Atomic Habits, one of my favorite books. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. So if you're doing things and it's not in alignment with who you want to be and how you want to show up, then it's something you either need to delegate or drop if it's not something you need to be doing. Those are the only 3 opportunities for any to do in my head. Do it immediately, delegate it to someone else, or drop it. And if you can't actually do the thing, putting it in your calendar that's still doing something with it, right? But we operate in this space where we feel like we have to do everything, and you don't. You can do it, you can delegate it, or you can drop it, and it's okay to say no. So why Google Tasks works, I've already talked about this. It's fully integrated with all your Google products, your Gmail, your calendar, etc. It visually overlays right on top of your calendar. So there's a sidebar feature, there's an app feature, and there's the desktop on top of your calendar feature. It's mobile friendly and voice assistant compatible if you set it up right. So you can say, hey, Google, remind me to do this thing. Oops, I shouldn't do that because my phone is listening. Because I have a Google phone. But you can actually leverage that and even use your voice assistant to get things on your to-do list and then play with them later. And you already have it if you're operating in a Google Calendar. You probably just haven't structured it to work for you. So this is why tasks work, and this is how they work. So most of the time when I meet somebody, this is all I see when I ask them to open their Google Tasks. What they do is they pull it up and it's just a chaotic mess of all the things that they've brain dumped in. Okay. And that's okay. I mean, it's really easy to sit there and add a task and add a task and add a task. But the thing is it's built for structure. It's built for intentionality. And so that's what I want to show you how to be better with. So what we can do first is we can actually create multiple lists. And the reason this is helpful is because you need a brain dump list. So the thing I just showed you, everything that's on your mind, you can dump it there and make it messy, and it doesn't need to waste any time. Capture everything that's on your mind so you're not holding it in your brain and wasting brain space. You just like let it go, okay? Then you need to have an intentional focus list. This is going to be your top 1 to 3 priorities. I use it for the day. I know other people use it for maybe the week, so it might have a few more than 3 if it's your week. But the focus list is, what am I actually working on that I'm going to get done? And that way you're not overwhelmed by the brain dump list. That might be 243 things, because you know you're not going to get 243 things done today, and checking one off is not going to give you the dopamine hit you need. But if you've got 3 things on a list and you check off 3 things today, by golly, you've been accomplished and you feel way better. Okay. Then if this is relevant to you, you can bypass it if you don't need it. Projects are amazing to have their own list, because you can say, here's the massive project. Let's say it's a business rebrand. Well, in a business rebrand, you don't want to put that on as just one task, because that's a massive thing. There's lots of nuanced small things that go into a larger project. So you can actually create a project list and say, okay, under project rebrand, I need to hire a logo designer on Fiverr. I need to get them my thoughts. I need to, meet with them. I need to give them my top 3 picks. I need to approve the logo. Then I need to send the logo to this person. And you might have a massive project. And so when you have the project list, it allows you to stay intentional and focused and not get distracted. But you can say, okay, well, I'm going to do 3 of these things today, and I'm going to move those to my intentional focus list. And again, you won't feel as overwhelmed. And then my favorite leverage tool inside tasks is reoccurring routines. So like I said, and I'm going to show you, tasks can be laid on top of time blocks. They can be laid on top of your calendar. And so if there is something that you need to do daily, weekly, or monthly, or annually, I don't even care. Like, let's say pay quarterly taxes, for example, that can be on your calendar 4 times a year as a recurring task, and you don't have to put it on there manually. Because I'm ADHD, forget to eat. So I actually have a task on my calendar by 11:30 every day that I have to check off that says, did you eat yet? So I love that, but I don't need that recurring task to take up space in those other 3 lists. So I built a recurring routine list where I put anything that's recurring, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, or whatever, in there. So I can go find them, but they stay out of the stuff that I'm working in, because again, it's just a routine or a habit that I'm building for myself. So that's why I like those as the core 4 lists. But if you're going to start with anything, start with 2, brain dump and intentional focus. And then again, you can leverage from there. So what does that look like? Well, if you're inside calendar.google.com, right, this is your calendar space. There's this lovely little toggle up here in the corner that my arrow is pointing to. Again, this is like Time Insights, where when I teach this, everybody goes, that wasn't there. And I'm like, no, it's always been there, my friends. It's always been there. You can switch between your calendar and tasks because it's a feature built into Google Calendar. And so when you toggle between them, you're going to see originally just a singular list, but you can come over here and you can create as many new lists as you want. So I've given you the example of 4. And again, if you're doing 2, go ahead and make those 2, okay? And then these will be accessible across your phone, your tablet, and your computer. So it makes it easy to dump into the brain dump, which I would put as the first one or your highest priority one, and then go from there. And you can, these are physical too, so you can click and drag, which is real fun if you're a tactile person. So how do I use tasks daily? Like I said, I'm going fast, not to overwhelm, but just to make sure we have tons of time to talk. So if you've gotten your calendar and your email organized, you can use tasks to lay on top of a time block. So if you're time blocking to work on your to-do list, you could actually put one or two of the to-dos on that to-do list time block and then check them off when they're done. And that gives you that little dopamine hit, right? So let's say I've got, an hour, I might be able to get 2 things done. I'm going to lay those on top. And that really can become a great little gamification almost of your calendar and your to-dos. So if you put a date only on it, it's going to put it at the top of your calendar. But if you put a date and a time, it's going to put it right on top of that time block. Yes, I will show you that, Miss Jill. This is the reason I love this is because, again, it doesn't have to all be on there as a future casting thing. I would cry if I saw somebody's entire to-do list on like tomorrow. Like, you don't need 243 things there. But you can be intentional with adding a date and a time to a to-do list item, and that will allow it to show up on your calendar, and then you can check it off. This is also a sidebar in basically every Google product. So like if I'm sitting in my email, there's a sidebar, and I'll show you what it looks like. You can pull up the task list, or if I'm in my calendar, I can pull up my task list and say, what's on my intentional tasks for today as I'm building out my time blocks? So they start to work together if you start leveraging them, okay? So here is what it looks like, again, if you're in calendar, and this little lovely icon right here is the task sidebar, right? But when you create a task, if you make it time bound, so this is me creating a task and giving it a date and a time, it will show up on here. My number one problem with people when I teach this is they tell me they can't find it when they've added a date and a time. And it's usually because they've toggled it off. So it shows up as a secondary calendar attached to your Google Calendar. So the Jess Weber calendar is the primary one. That's where you're building your time blocks. That's where you're building your time insights. Tasks is a secondary thing that lays on top of it. So when you're playing with this, make sure that you turn that on. Otherwise, you're not going to see them lay on top of your calendar. Okay. And again, like I said, that sidebar is always here and living. And I'll pull up my real one and I'll show you exactly what it looks like as well. But I just wanted you to have the screenshots when you get the notes, so that way you have them. So why I believe tasks deserve their own list, I've already kind of gone into this, but I want to stand on this soapbox a minute longer. Recurring tasks are foundational. They are those systems and those structures that help you raise your floor, like I was talking about in the beginning. They help keep the main thing the main thing. And so I will challenge you that the more you automate and put in those recurring tasks, the faster and more efficient you're going to feel, because you won't have to remember things. So like in one of the businesses I do, I have to submit payroll and I have to do several things for it. That is always in there, right? Like I said, my daily habits, text my fitness trainer my weight, which means I have to weigh in to text him. Don't forget to eat by a certain time. Don't forget to pick up your kid by a certain time. It doesn't matter whether it's like get milk or it's, which you need to buy every Monday or something. I don't know what it is, but you can use recurring tasks for anything to remove the pressure of remembering. And that's why I think that they're so important. So they prevent clutter in your daily focus list if you keep them separate. Again, intentionality is the best space here. And they deserve the automation so you're not constantly having to recreate them. I don't want to sit there and recreate my payroll task every week or every month. So that automation, again, just adds a lot more speed. So how do you make this happen? Is when you go in to create a task, and like I said, I'll live demo this, you can actually set up, does it recur once a week, once a month, once a day, and how long does it go? So for example, if you're trying to create a 66-day habit, you could literally say after 66 occurrences. If you're saying, I want it to go on forever, like I want to eat until the day that I die, I might say never, right? So it allows you to choose the parameters for the recurrence, and you can be very intentional. I want it to recur every Monday or every second of the month, whatever the thing may be. And you can, again, play with it, challenge you. You cannot break it, but start figuring out what's going to work for you And when you make them time bound and add them to the calendar, it just makes your life so much easier. So my friend Dan Martell again, automation is not the enemy of creativity. It's the path to it. So again, setup can feel overwhelming in the beginning. And this is why I told you don't try to implement everything at once. Calendar first, then email, then tasks. But when you add automations to all these things, it frees up more white space because you're not manually spending time putting things on your calendar or your lists, right? And it gives you the space to do more and think more because you're not having to hold so much, which is what I feel like my curse is most of the time. So I mentioned this briefly already. Break your projects into subtasks. So anything that is a larger thing that cannot be accomplished in one like checkbox, go ahead and just like we were talking sublabels, you can do subtasks. So I gave the example of a rebrand, put every little nuanced thing into a project as a subtask, and then you can move just one or two over. So you can use it for anything. Launches, podcast planning, onboarding checklists, whatever you feel like is a massive project that when you look at it on a to-do list as one thing, it overwhelms you, break it into smaller pieces. Smaller pieces mean smaller wins and more wins, and it makes your life that much easier. So I love doing this because you can actually nest tasks inside of larger deliverable phases. So you could even say rebrand logo, rebrand colors, rebrand marketing emails, and have every subtask in there. You have to use this for the way that your brain operates. So I want you to be super intentional here with understanding how you show up and what's going to help you, again, dollar producing activities move forward. I will give you an example here under recurring tasks. I had a client one time who was a real estate agent who had a database of 300. He put in a recurring task to reach out to every person in his database as an individual task every 8 weeks. And he staggered them on his calendar. So it was like 6 or 7 a day. And they showed up in his morning lead gen time block. And he would just go in and check them off. And then he could hide the tasks if he needed to, right? But that was an example of breaking up something that felt big into something smaller. It can be the same thing for any type of thing you're trying to break up. But this lets you manage projects without feeling like it's such a heavy lift. It lets you manage tasks like it's not such a heavy thing. So here's an example of what it looks like for the sub-tasking. So you can make this project 1, and I'll answer the question I see in the chat in just a sec. Project 1, and then you could have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Like I said, it could be project 1, phase 1, and then it could be task 1, 2, 3. You get as nuanced or specific as you need. I cannot tell you what that is for you. So whatever the case may be, even if you've got a brain dump, your brain dump might start as do a rebrand, right? And then when you actually have hired somebody or started the rebrand, you could create a rebrand project, okay? But I typically operate in this thing where I put everything I'm thinking about in brain dump until I go in my morning and I'm like, hey, this is what I'm intentionally working on today. I need to work on this project, so I'm going to work in the tasks first, and then I'm actually going to get the things done. Or I might just say, hey, my brain dump is a long list of things, but I have no white space today. So I'm going to leave my brain dump for tomorrow and I'm going to move on. So it might be that you spend a lot of time in projects for a day while you're fleshing out a project, or you're just adding to the brain dump and moving on because you don't have the white space to operate anything extra. So everything is time bound and energy bound inside your task list. But if you can filter through, does this make me money? Is this moving me towards my goal? You'll start to realize how many things you can probably delete off the list. Because I know that we feel like everything is important and urgent, but not everything is. So one of my favorite side notes here is you can actually make emails a task. So another way to clean out that unread section is if you need to do something and it's not just a quick response, you can turn an email into a to-do and put it on your priority list. So you can literally just right click it. I'm going to show you what that looks like. And you can say that you need to address it later. If it's something that's further out, or if it's something that you need to get done, you can put it in your 1 to 3 priorities. So that way it's not filling up your inbox, but you also aren't forgetting it. So this helps keep your unread inbox cleaned out without dropping the ball on things. So this is a sample of an email. And if I right click it, you'll see right here, it says add to tasks. So when you're leveraging tasks, it will show up in your, right now for me, it would be brain dump. And then I can choose to move it over when it's a priority and I want to respond to it, right? So you can add an email, and what it does is it hyperlinks directly to the email. So I'll move an email from unread to everything else, and I'll mark it a task. And then when I complete the task, I'll go back and I'll just archive or delete the email based on what I needed to do. So this is another reason that I believe that calendar comes first, email comes second before you head into to-do list, because when you're operating in a space that you understand the calendar and you understand the email inbox, then it makes the to-dos less chaotic and overwhelming. Too many people try to start with the to-do list and they do it wrong because they don't have time blocks understood. They don't have time insights understood. They don't have priorities understood. And so that's why I want you to spend less time focusing, hyper-focusing on this, and really just be intentional with filtering for priorities. So again, if you have mastered the first 2 things, go ahead, go play in Google Calendar in the task space, set up your 2 to 4 core lists. So again, you could start with just brain dump and your 1 to 3 priorities for the day. That's it, if that's easiest. Create some recurring tasks if that's something that you want to leverage. And then schedule a daily or a weekly check-in to review those. So for me, what I do is when I wake up and I log onto my computer, I check my email first. Then I add anything I need to add or remove to my to-do list from my email. And then I set up my time blocks for the day, and then I start working. And all of that is done in a less than 30-minute window, usually about 15, because I've set up these systems. So all of them work together because I've created an ecosystem that communicates and it functions together. But again, your task list, especially the brain dump one, is going to feel very overwhelming if you don't have the systems in place for the other stuff. So again, Greg McKeown, one of my favorite authors. If you haven't read Effortless, I actually taught a class on this virtually. So if you want that replay, let me know. But when you focus on what's essential, life becomes easier. Again, it's more about filtering for priorities than it is for anything else. Like, yes, I can teach you Google tools all day long. I can teach you everything, but you can't believe that everything is created equal and feel like you're being successful. So that's really what I want you to do. And this is one of my favorite little side notes here. This image and most of the other ones were actually created by the AI built into Google tools called Gemini. So I actually told it, hey, I want you to make Google stand on the Olympic podium winning gold medal. And it made this for me. and again, it's just a fun thing, but all these Google tools are set up to help you. So if you're operating in something other than that, that's the only reason that I say what I say, is because they work so well in tandem that you can cut out a ton of wasted time. So hopefully, after you get into the habit of these, starting with your calendar, then mastering email, then mastering tasks, you're going to feel way less chaotic and overwhelmed. So what the system should be giving you is clarity about knowing what matters and what really doesn't, control of your time, your tasks, and your inbox, and confidence because you've got a lot more traction instead of reaction. And so, you know, Rory Vaden says, you multiply your time by spending time on the things today that give you more time tomorrow. I want you to walk away with this, first and foremost, understanding your priorities, and then having the tools to leverage time as your number one tool to move you forward. That's really my hope for you. And if it's something that you need more strategy on, let's have a conversation. This is literally what I do for a living, and it's my favorite conversation. So, again, I mentioned this already. If you're struggling with this, leverage your AI, load the framework in, prompt it, give it screenshots of what you're currently doing, and ask it for suggestions and help. So this is where I wanted to address that question that you asked, Blanca, about what items should be in deep work or tasks or administrative stuff, recurring. This is where you have to build something that works for you, because I don't know your business off the top of my head. But I believe that if I remember correctly, you're in real estate. And so in real estate, to me, administrative tasks would be all the stuff that you need for like transactions, right? It's all the nuanced little paperwork, all that kind of stuff that you need to get done, scheduling things, talking to people. I would have a different one for your lead generation and lead follow-up. I would have one for client appointments, right? And then I would have one for like personal development, business growth, something like that. You might not have deep work in the sense that you're like building something per se, but maybe your deep work is learning marketing strategies or sales conversations. And so maybe some of your deep work is reading or listening or script practice or conversations practice or whatever the thing may be that is developing you to serve your clients better. Okay. And so you can start with the big time blocks and then you can break it down into little things inside tasks. But again, I don't know what's going to work for your brain and your business. And this is where leveraging AI is the number one easiest, fastest route here. So hopefully that helps answer that a little bit. And we're almost at the end and we can do live stuff. So again, revisit your calendar, add start, stop, anchors, and a weekly planning block for your tasks. Set up filters, labels in Gmail to protect your focus. Build a 4-task list system. So Spanx your calendar, set up your inbox for success, build a task list that actually works for you. Do not get overwhelmed by a singular list. And then you are who you are because of your environment. So if you design it intentionally, you get to live an intentional life. Okay. Again, like I told you guys earlier, this is why it matters to me is my kid. So I went from a 60+ hour work week and literally almost dying from type 2 diabetes to less than 30 hours a week running 4 businesses, making 4 times as much money and loving every second of what I do so that I can spend time with my kid. I don't expect you to, from that to that. I hope nobody else has to go through what I went through to get here. And I hope this helps you buy back 5, 10, 15 hours of your week so you can spend it doing what matters to you. And again, everybody who showed up, thank you so much, because what you spent to show up here is going to my son's Heart Walk team. So we support the Children's Heart Foundation, where they create grants for pediatric cardiology research. And so the money that I collected for this entire course, I'm actually wearing my Thomas the Titan t-shirt from last year, will go to support his team this coming September. So it's all the proceeds are going to that. So I just want to say thank you. And if you know somebody else that would benefit from this class, I'd be happy to give them the replay if they want to donate to the team as well. And this will be a clickable link in your email. Because again, yes, I will gladly send the link for the donation as part of the email. My whole thing is about creating space and opportunity for first my kid and my family, but then other kids and other families. And so to me, it's not a money-making thing. It's about how do I help people live bigger, better lives. And, you know, I just hired a speaking coach because my entire situation is I know that I was born to be a teacher and a speaker. Like that's innately what I did. I spent way too much money to go into college for a master's of education, but I get to use it from a platform and a stage to help more people. And so I am passionate about prioritization and understanding all of this and leveraging tools and leveraging time because it's just an innate part of who I am. And so I wanted to say thank you to you guys. And that is the end of my slide deck. Again, I will send you the entire slide deck. I will send you the links. And I actually have a step-by-step walkthrough of how to do each of the 3 big things that I shared with you that I'm going to attach to this email as well. So they are a document that literally says, click here, do this, click here, do this to organize your calendar. Click here, do this, click here, do this to organize your inbox if you felt like I went too fast. So you guys are welcome to unmute. I know I had a couple questions that I'm going to scroll back through in the chat as well. But I have my inbox, I've got my calendar here. So I am happy to show you guys pretty much anything that you have questions on if you feel like I did not thoroughly cover it enough. So feel free. Open up, unmute, ask away. Let's see.
I
Okay, I know.
really loved it.
Oh, good.
But just listening at you is overwhelming. I also have ADHD and I get my brain. I mean, sometimes I can be looking at you and maybe it had happened even with my husband in my head. It's somewhere else and I did not hear anything that he said and he gets pissed off at me because I say, you're not paying attention. I mean, you're only working, and that's how my brain works.
Yeah.
I have difficulty sometimes even to stay asleep. And
Mm,
so when I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever, either I start sending a text and put it in draft. So I know that at
yeah.
6:30 in the morning, I will send it because I cannot really stay asleep. I have never
Mhm.
done it and I can't, and no matter what I take or don't take, I'm always going to be up. So, but listening at you in reorganizing and the dumping, it is true. I try to do, like you said, have things move directly to newspapers or newsletters, whatever.
Mhm.
And I might have right now 2,000, which I have never really have gone and read.
Yeah.
So, or getting, because I'm in the real estate business, like you said, I'm getting a lot of emails from other agents sending me their listings. And so instead of probably doing, like you said, archive them,
Yeah.
is delete them because
Yep.
if it's not relevant to any business or client that I have right now, is actually taking time because I go one by one and I have 3 different emails that I work. Uh,
Yep.
so, but
I,
it is overwhelming. Just listen at you and all the things that I should be doing. It will take time, and probably that's gonna go in a project. Or command
yeah.
is another one. I mean, to try to organize your database, and I have like 5,000 clients or
Sure.
people, but now start organizing. Maybe start with an A and make sure that
Yep.
if I'm working with the A, I have it in a smart plan and I have all their
Mhm.
information, something like that to help me because it becomes overwhelming and I get easily distracted.
I get that. And that's where so for emails, if you use a label and a filter, like for example, this is Renee Warren, who's married to Dan Martell, who I went to an event of hers. I get all her emails and like she will put out a new podcast episode. I don't need these emails. I saved them just so I could show you guys this. So what I can do is like if I wanted to, I could select all because I've got a Renee label and I could choose to delete every single thing if I wanted to. Now I don't want to delete some of these because they were conversations with her. But point being, I can literally bulk delete something if I know I'm not reading it. And so I will tell you systematically and small bite-sized pieces are going to be your best friend, whether it's emails, whether it's your database, whether it's anything. And that's why I wanted to spend time on the tasks was because if you are like sitting here and your task is clean a 5K person database, that is going to sit in your task list for the rest of your life. Like that's not, so that might be a brain dump thing that you think about at 2 a.m., but that's not an achievable thing that's going to warrant one checkbox. And so that's why I like the project thing because maybe like you said, was clean up A's list, right? But then underneath it, that might even be, and I can make this bigger. I forget that I'm on a giant monitor. But maybe even that's overwhelming. So maybe you make a subtask and you can see 3 dots inside Google is my favorite thing. Add a subtask. Monday is 20 clients. Tuesday is 20 clients. And you just figure out how many days it's going to take you to get all the A's done based on how many A's you have, which you should be able to figure out from a database. And so you could literally put the dates here if you wanted to. So let's see, like what's next Monday? It's the first, right?
September 1st.
Yeah. So I put 9/1/25. And then I put 9/2/25, right? And then I could literally break it up so that I know exactly how long it's going to take me, and I can adjust without worrying about my B's, C's, D's, E's, F's, whatever. Like I could just start with one thing. And then here's what's beautiful is if I'm like, hey, today is Monday the 1st, I can click on this and I can change it from projects to my focus, right? Whether it's weekly focus or intentional focus, you name it what you want. And now it's here. And it's easy to access, it's easy to see. And when I'm over here in my calendar, and again, this is what I wanted to show you guys, and I click that sidebar, I can toggle between all the views. So I have weekly focus as my priority view, but I can switch to my brain dump anytime I think about things. And I could be like, email, blah, 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 right? And I could put as many brain dump things as I need in here, but I also know that that's not the list that is my priority list. Here is my priority list. And when I finish a task, I get to check it off and it's done. And that's why I said this priority list should be less than 3 things a day, because then you get the dopamine of going, oh my God, it was a short list and I got it done, right? Not looking at your brain dump and crying because you've put things that are too big to achieve in a day and you've got too many on there, right? And so you can click and drag. I'm going to use the projects one as an example. You can click and drag these and reorder them. So that's what I meant about the brain dump is you can dump into this as much as you want, but then I would challenge you at least weekly to come in here and say, what is actually a priority? I released the idea to the list, but is the list the right, like, is the thing on the list the right thing to hit my goal? If it's not, you can delete it and it's okay. Like, not everything that goes in brain dump has to be accomplished, but it allows you to release the idea and move on. So that way you can be more intentional with your focus and your priorities and not feel as distracted. Because I think I feel like I squirrel more when I'm holding too much in my head at one time. And so this is an easy way to compartmentalize and just compress things. And then you can be more intentional. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, you said that if when I am putting something in a task and I put, let's say, and I put a time, let's say from as an example, 8 to 9. So that task is also going, and I say, let's say that 8 to 9 for me is leverage. How do you say generation as an example?
Yes. Okay. Let's do that. So here's today, August 27. I'm going to set the time. Let's see. For me, it's 2:52. Y'all have been amazing. I'm just going to put it at 2:30. I'm not going to make it repeat, right? So this is my date. This is my time. It's not repeating. As soon as I put that on here, it should show up right on my calendar. But this is not a color-coded time block. It is only a task. So right here, what I might do is I might have my task of, like you said, deep work, admin tasks, whatever the thing may be. And then I would click on the color if I've got my labels set up. Let's say this is admin tasks. Then I could choose admin tasks and, oh, come on. No, save, and then put it right here. So tasks lay on top of a time block. Tasks are not going to be color-coded with insights. They are a separate calendar, so only your primary calendar is going to show up with time insights. But the task can lay on top of a block, and then when you complete it, it's done, and it shows you that it's completed, and it gives you that, again, that dopamine hit. But if you want to look at your calendar as a whole, you can hide those tasks anytime you want. So that's why they're separate. Does that help?
Yeah. Would that also work with projects? The same way that if you put the time, it will actually be on top of...
It'll be on any of these. So if, anything that you add something time bound to, like let's say I made this a recurring task. So I'm going to hit here and I'm going to say, It's recurring on the 27th. I don't care what time of day it is, but I want it to repeat every week on Wednesdays. And I hit done, it's going to show up right here in the top of it. So it doesn't matter which list it's in. If you add a date, it goes to the top. And if you add a date and time, it goes on top of a time block. Okay. Any other questions, y'all? I am an open book. That was a really good question.
I think that I met you with Tyler one day on the
Probably.
PhD group.
Yeah.
That you were
Yeah,
actually.
I've taught in there a couple of times. Because like I said, my big mission in life is just to help people live their most like impactful lives. So I feel like I was put on this earth to connect people with the knowledge, tools, or resources they need to do that. And so Tyler's been a great one to let me do that and reach people that way. So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity though. Anytime, like I speak at associations, I speak at I'm speaking at a chamber of commerce in a week. Like I travel. One of the people on here is a client of mine who's having me come teach her real estate team in her office. So it's one of those things where because I understand how to do these things, I can create the space to make my big one thing, which is teaching more people, happen at a high level while also making money. And so that's why I'm like, how can I help other people do whatever their one thing is at the highest and best use of their time, energy, and money? Nicole, I see you.
I do. I have a quick question. Sorry, I had to go camera off for the last hour. I've been driving because that's real estate. How do you feel like the phone apps for all of these different products integrate with the desktop interface? Because that's one of the stumbling blocks that I have. I'm an iPhone user, and I don't have an Android. But also I'm in my car all the time, right? I'm doing a lot of this on the go, and I'm trying to figure out how to best do that.
Yeah. So what you're going to want to do, I'm trying to pull it up now, but mine, of course, is fun. You're going to want to go to your app store and you're going to want to type in Google. So you will not be using the native anything. You will actually need to go download Gmail. You will need to go download, it's not even pulling up.
Yeah.
Google
I mean, I have a Gmail app on my phone and a calendar app on my phone and stuff.
Okay.
Like, I don't
Tasks is a whole separate one.
Okay. Okay.
So Google Tasks so each Google product has its own unique app, even though they're integrated on the desktop, which is funny. So, but as long as you're logged into the same account across all the apps, it'll show up on your desktop as well.
Well, and that's a powerful takeaway I had from today is that I have been using my Gmail, my personal Gmail account as my like mothership for everything, like my work email, all my different email addresses go to that. But that means I don't have that insight for the calendar, right? When you're like, people say it's not there. Well, it really isn't there for me because that's how I look at it. I, on Chrome this afternoon, was able to have one tab logged into one of my Gmail accounts and another tab simultaneously logged into a different one. I've been using Gmail and I've been using Google Calendar since like 2007, 2006. It didn't used to do that. You used to not be able to do that at all.
So this is, again, we don't have to get into the weeds, but this is why I love Google products, is because like I have all of these personal accounts logged in, and then I have entirely different Chrome profiles for every business thing that I operate too. And so again, it's like I created an entire ecosystem for every business. And so like if I pull it up, not that you need to see all this, but like this is all my KW stuff. So like I have a business inside Keller Williams that does onboarding and offboarding for market centers. So I'm still in the real estate business, but I'm not operating a real estate business. But I have my calendar and my email and all of that for this business in this Chrome profile. And it keeps everything separate, but yet my calendars, and you can't see it here, because I also operate I Love Coaching, which teaches people how to build their own unique coaching businesses. I have all of those calendars overlaid here. And don't freak out, don't judge me. But like, there's my personal calendar, there's my KW business calendar, there's my husband's calendar, and then there's my I Love Coaching calendar, and they all integrate. But I love what you said, Nicole, because I did have to move everything from a personal to a paid Gmail account so that I got my time insights.
And that, yeah, and that's one of the pieces of the puzzle I didn't have. Also, thank you so much for just reminding me how important all of these things are. I used to do some of this stuff, and just at some point I was like, oh, it's probably not that big a deal. I'm too busy. And then things started falling apart as far as like my labels go and my inbox. And but yeah, thank you so much for this. It's been great.
Of course. Awesome. Well, like I said, I know you guys I've hit my time limit, but I can stay another minute. So if Terry or Jill or anybody else has any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. But again, the idea here is just simplify and know what your priorities are, and it's going to change your life. And it's so much easier said than done, but that's why the small, tiny habits and creating small micro wins for yourself makes it way easier than trying to look at something as a major overhaul. Because Blanca, I know you're not the first person to tell me that a 2-hour masterclass with me is overwhelming. I've taught this as a 6-week course. I've taught this as a 4-hour like workshop. I've taught all of it. And yet, no matter which way I teach it, if you've never done it before, it's hard. And so that's why I love to send all the resources and say, start small, start simple, pick one thing. So the first thing on the calendar that you haven't done yet, maybe that's just your spanksing and your bookends. Maybe it's just your time blocking. Maybe it's just your color coding. Start and baby step it. And then you're going to get there and it'll become second nature and it'll make your life so much easier. So
it's easier when you have, like you say, an assistant that you can delegate things. But when you are a solo agent, and I thank God I'm blessed. I mean that I have a lot of business. I was able to cap this year within just 3 months from my anniversary. But that tells me that I don't have sometimes, time. And I'm always, sometimes it's, even though I try to be committed and try to, be focused into what is the one thing that is going to get me closer to my goals or my money. Sometimes I'm just putting fires off because there's nobody else that I can actually delegate things that are administrative work that I should not be doing. I think that I don't know if it was like you say, I read the book and I actually buy my time. What was the name? And I think
buy back your time.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was in that book or it was the go. I love to read like you. And but it was saying that this guy, what he did is actually took everything, all the emails and everything out of his phone and out of his so it was the assistant that was going to be reviewing all the emails, and only those that needed his intervention she will kind of forward to him or something like that. I wish I would have that help, but I don't. So it's very difficult for me to be, and follow actually the block time because I don't have that flexibility.
Well, and it's funny. So like, I know Dan personally. I was in his coaching program for a couple of years, Dan Martell. And I don't say that to name drop. I'm just saying I know exactly what you're talking about because I've heard him say it for 2+ years. And I actually don't know that I agree, depending on the type of business you're building. So if you're looking to build a scalable, like enterprise organization with multiple people, then yes, hiring an assistant is the very next step. But if you're looking to stay, like you said you were in real estate, a solo agent, then I actually don't agree with the MREA model of the next thing that you need to hire as an executive assistant or an admin or something like that. I think your best and highest use of your time, energy, and money is 1, simplify what I just taught you at a scale, and 2, leverage out transaction paperwork that probably is not a good use of your time, energy, or money, and find a really good transaction coordinator that can schedule things for you and do the communication for you so you can show up at a high level when you need to be somewhere, but you're not dealing with the emails or the paperwork. And I think that's a better use of your time, because if you simplify your inbox, you're not going to feel like you have nearly as many emails. And so Dan's premise of hire an EA, an executive assistant, who only manages your calendar and your inbox, to me, that's a waste of money if you did what I just did.
I received an email from him actually saying that he has few spots for coaching and things like that. And that's where I'm lacking. I'm able to achieve a lot of things because I am a hyperactive person, and the way my brain works, and I'm sure that yours, that one idea that you bring me, I already have like a organigram in my brain, and I say where that idea can actually plug it, how, in what other aspect of my life or my business I can use that information. So that's how my brain works. I used to be a
Yeah.
banker for 30 years, so, and I did everything and never had an assistant or a backup. So even when I was on vacation, I was in 24/7 call. So
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, that's my big passion space is you don't like your calendar should reflect your space and you should treat people how to treat you. And so you should not be on call 24/7. Like I use the feature of do not disturb on my phone to not allow emails or texts or notifications come through after a certain time of day and until a certain time of morning, except for like family members who need to call me and my son's cardiologist and that kind of thing, because I'm like, you know what, my time is precious, and I don't need to work 24/7 to be effective. And I think that's one line I didn't say in this that I think is a really important line. It's not about efficiency, it's about effectiveness, because effectiveness is what's going to get you to your goals, not efficiency in getting things done, because too often people are doing the wrong things. So I don't care about your efficiency, I care about you being intentional. And so whatever you need to do, and if we need to take a time, like, and Terry and anybody watching this replay, if we need to take a time and do like a little audit of your business and say, hey, where are you currently spending your time and where do you actually need to be and what can you do or what can you delegate or what should you drop, I am happy to do that, because like I said, this is my business. I coach people to simplify their life, systematize so they can scale to whatever they want to scale to. And whether that's time freedom, whether that's financial, it doesn't matter. But the idea is you probably need to cut out 20 to 80% of what you're doing. Let's face it, like you're probably doing a lot of things you don't need to be doing. The things you are doing can probably be automated or systematized. Set a new standard for yourself so that you have more time. And then that's what allows you to create a bigger life for yourself. So
yeah, I neglect following up. I'm neglect
yeah.
really sometimes, and sometimes I even forget that a client called me and wanted me to actually sell a house. This happened. She said, I called you on your birthday and this is 2 months and you never called me back. And I said, well, girl, if you call me while I was celebrating my birthday, of course I didn't even remember. But she wanted me to be the one that sell the house. So she already
Yeah.
gave me two, but she called me back and said, you forgot to call me.
Yeah.
So I am to the point of that. I am to the point that I sometimes forget, because even though I use other AI to recall the conversations, I can sometimes to forget that I needed to return a phone call because it's a new business. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's why I like the task thing so much. Was just because it's really helpful, I think, to dump it this like the second you see it. So like I keep my phone on my desk on silent with no vibrate, and I get my text messages on my computer and stuff intentionally. But I if I pick up my phone and see that there's something, I will go put it in my task list before I do anything else to release it and not forget it at the same time. And so that task list has become my EA, my executive assistant, my admin, my whatever. And then I mean, I leverage AI a lot too. That's my thought partner. But I think that the to-do list and the brain dumping so that you don't forget, like you create the habit of slowing down to speed up. I know I want to go fast. I know I have a lot to do, but I have something that I need to prioritize. So I'm going to dump that in my list before I'm allowed to go do the next thing. And that can really start to be a habit that you build and helps you out there. So
thank you so much. I
you're
mean,
so welcome.
I'm looking forward to start here, start there. I was talking to the transaction, the tech girl yesterday. I say, I have missed so many of your classes. I say that if I have to go back and refresh do I go actually to the 66 steps from Marty, or in order for me to revise my business and revise my command and my smart plans and my 30 touches and all that, because I have stopped doing that almost 7 months ago.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And that's where, again, that's why I'm saying I would lean into what do you know that you need to do that's the highest priority? Because like, for example, since we're talking real estate, you know, that particular challenge you're referencing has 8 iterations of 66 videos. You don't need to watch all those and do all those things. So what do you need to do that's going to improve the quality of your business? What is going to reduce the time and friction in your business? That's what you need to do first, not all of that. And so that's where I would lean into your AI if you're leveraging that, like you said, and you can brain dump a list into Google, screenshot it, put that in your AI and say, hey, help me prioritize and talk through these things. Like there's so many ways that you can leverage the tools in a simple way. Brain dump here, get feedback here without another human. Not because I don't love humans, because literally that's what I do is I teach them. But you know, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, when I know that I am getting in my own way, what can I do to remove myself from the situation as the bottleneck? And so AI and Google tools are like my two favorite things to remove myself as the bottleneck in my own world.
I'm gonna try. I'm looking forward to see the guide and to start somewhere.
Yes.
And that's why probably I was trying to ask you, I mean, give me a list or something like that, because it's easier if I already know these things should fall into tasks, or these things should fall into deep work,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
It's easier for me to just
so build that out with your AI. Yeah,
Huh?
based on your business and the way you operate, build that out with your AI. Then you can create the list that's a black and white list for you of this falls here, so I'm going to label it this. This falls here, so I'm going to label it this. Because again, every business is different. Every person is different. And so I don't know what your priorities are. I can't tell you this is the only way and it's the highway. And so I hate telling people it's a choose your own adventure book, but it's a choose your own adventure book. And there's strategies that can improve the quality of your adventure along the way. And so that's really kind of what this whole day was about. So as soon as we wrap this up, I'm going to render the video and I'll get that out. And then if you or anybody watching the replay has any questions, go ahead and just reply to the email. Let's have a conversation, because truly this is where my heart is helping people have the best life they can possibly have.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate it, and I do appreciate it staying and talking and chatting with me. I mean, it does help. But I know that I have a big task in front of me. What are my priorities? If you ask me right now, a lot of things are priority right now. It's just to determine which is actually a really, really, really first thing to do. And, you know.
You got it. Well, I will get all this stuff out to you and you let me know how I can help. So
thank you so much. God bless you. And I'll be praying for you and your kid.
Thank you. Bye.